A Journey from Past to Future Implications, presented by Neotron and Kalis. I'm Vanessa, and I'll be your host for today's session. Let's start by briefly introducing our speakers. The first speaker will be Irene Cotogni, Cosmetic Product Specialist at Neotron. The second speaker will be Fabio Brunetta, CEO at Kalis Company. As for today's agenda, we'll start by giving an overview of Cotecna and Neutron companies. Then we'll start the first speech with the regulatory and analytical overview, moving then to the past and future of the formulation. Eventually, we'll dedicate a few minutes to the Q&A session to address the questions received. So moving to the Cotecna overview, Cotecna is a Swiss company based in Geneva. It's a leading provider of testing, inspection, and certification services dedicated to make the supply chain safer and more efficient. Cotecna's offices and labs are placed worldwide, with over 6,200 employees serving in more than 180 offices and laboratories. Cotecna's expertise span across 5 key sectors, namely food and farm, agriculture, metals and minerals, certification, and ESG solutions. Moving to Neutron, Neutron is a single-site laboratory based in Modena with over 500 employees, processing more than 1,000 samples daily, covering 5,000 accredited tests. As for its fields of activities, Neutron testing expertise span across different areas, from baby food to food ingredients, food supplements, moving to pharma and cosmetics. So we are almost ready to start the webinar speeches. To warm things up, we have prepared a quick poll. The 2 questions will pop up on your screen. You'll have 1 minute each to select your preferred answer. And then Irene, the first speaker, will take in from there to start her speech. Results, we can see that 3 questions had the same percentage of answer, 26%, basing on 35 responses. Thank you for participating on the poll. Irene, the first speaker, will start for me her speech. The floor is all yours.
Thanks a lot, Vanessa. And these 2 answers will be discussed also in my presentation. And I'm quite surprised that more than 20% of participants answered that they have to replace their ingredients, because PFAS, in fact, are used also as ingredients, and we will see very well in the second part of this presentation. But from the FDA survey, it wasn't so widespread, the use of PFAS. Of course, they are widespread in the makeup, but in the second part of the presentation, we will see also some replacement, some proposal and suggestions or replacement of these ingredients into the cosmetics. Before entering into the definition, I would like to highlight that in this presentation, we will treat PFAS, at least in the first part, we will treat PFAS as impurity, in the second part as ingredients. In fact, the definition of PFAS is very large, and it comprises a lot of ingredients, and we have to keep in mind that some substances, not ingredients, and we have to keep in mind that some PFAS are concerning impurities, but a lot of other PFAS are actually ingredients, and they are widespread in all sectors, not only cosmetic, but of course cosmetic is one of the sectors in which this ban, or this future ban of the PFAS it will be a great impact. Let's start to the definition of PFAS, which is found in ECHA, and it is the OECD definition. It is any substances that contains at least one fully fluorinated methyl or methylene carbon atom. So we have a backbone of carbons, and this backbone is fully fluorinated. The other compounds which are not fully fluorinated are out of scope. Even with this definition, which restricts the field, we have a lot of substances. Next, please. Next, okay. In fact, we have about 10,000 substances which are comprises in this definition. They are all synthetics. These substances are widespread, as I told, in all sector. Why? Because the CF is the strong bonding chemistry, and so this gives to these substances a lot of very useful properties. They are stable, especially they are stable under intense heat. They can resist to chemical attacks, they are water repellents, they are grease repellents, but the problem is that due to the strength of this chemical bond, they are also very resistant to degradation and they persist in the environment. We have started to use, scientists have started to search what are the toxicological profile of these substances. We will see that we have some toxicological data for some of these substances. Some are unfavorable, and in fact, some of PFAS are already well known to be, of course, to have some properties of cancer. They can be carcinogenic. They can be also endocrine disruptor. Next slide, please. But some of them have some favorable toxicological profile, and we will see in the next part of the slide. Unfortunately, the position of Europe is to put us in the worst case scenario. Also because, and this is quite well highlighted by the FDA survey, for the majority of the substances, we don't have any toxicological data. We can guess some properties, some toxicological data from read across, but it is not enough. So Europe decided to put itself into the worst case scenario and to consider that from some evidences, a lot of PFAS present some risk. For example, they can cause cancer, especially PFOA and PFOS, which are in fact classified as carcinogenic PFOA1 and PFOS 2b by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. They can have some endocrine disruption risk. In fact, they can interfere with the thyroid function. Again, researchers show that PFOS and PFOA can cause a reduced response to vaccination. From my words, you can already understand that the major concern and the major unfavorable toxicological data come from the short second part of the slide, that long chain PFAS usually don't have this concern. In any case, the ban will cover all the PFAS, as you can see from the definition. Let's start to see what are the PFAS already used in cosmetics, which will be discussed better in the second part of the webinar. Next slide, please. Here you can find some example of PFAS already used in cosmetics, but we will go into deep in the next part of the webinar. And next slide, please. Unfortunately, PFAS can be found in cosmetic products also as contaminants. And these contaminants are, for the majority, the short-chain PFAS, and in particular, PFOS and PFOS, as we have already seen. In fact, according to a study of 2024, researcher tried to find PFAS, short chain PFAS, in product which don't contain, in cosmetic products which don't contain any PFAS as ingredients. And they examined 6 samples of makeups, and they found in every sample traces of traces of short-change PFAS, especially PFOS and PFOS. Again, the concentration was very low, and they calculated also the hazard risk, which is not the margin of safety, but they calculate the exposure with the method explained in the notice of guidance of SECS. They calculate the hazard risk, which is similar but not the same as MOS, as a margin of safety. And through this calculation, they could estimate a low hazard risk, but the problem still remains the bioaccumulation and the persistence in the environment. Consider also that they concentrated on the PFOS and the PFOS, which are known, which have some toxicological data, which are not good toxicological data, but we don't have that toxicological data for all the PFAS. In fact, about this, there are some, next slide please, we have some PFAS which are well known and they are already banned in the cosmetic regulation. Be careful, these are banned because they are in Annex 2 of cosmetic regulation. Here you can find a list. Next slide, please. There are other PFAS which are not banned because they are in the Annex 2, but they are banned because they are CMR. And so they are automatically banned because we know that as for Article 15 of cosmetic regulation, we cannot use carcinogenic substances in a cosmetic product, with some exception, but these substances are comprised in this exception, or because they are regulated by other regulation. For example, hexanoic acid is banned in REACH regulation, but this in the REACH regulation is explicitly mentioned the cosmetic regulation. Here, so you can find those PFAS which are declared CMR or which have some toxicological concern, and so they are regulated, and so they are can be treated as impurities in cosmetic products. Let's have a look all around the world because PFAS are a worldwide problem. Especially, we will concentrate on, we'll focus on Europe and US, which are the two main areas of the world in which PFAS has been studied. Well, Cosmetic Europe recommended to phase out the use of PFAS with a document by the end of the last year. So PFAS as ingredients are not now prohibited, but the position of Cosmetic Europe is quite clear. Find replacing alternatives to these substances, because the ban, and we will see it, will cover all the substances, also those with the favorable toxicological profile. France was the first country in the world that banned PFAS as a category, and it is interesting to read the concentration admitted as traces of PFAS, because these are the same concentration that we will put into the European ban, the REACH ban. And in US, we don't have a ban, but FDA was in charge to conduct a survey concluded at the end of the last year, in which they should evaluate the concentration of the presence of PFAS as ingredients in cosmetic products, and they should have evaluated the toxicological profile of these substances. As I told you at the very beginning, PFAS actually, at least in US cosmetics, cosmetic sold in US, but they come from all around the world, are not so widespread. They are quite widespread in makeup. But unfortunately, FDA concluded that even if there was some concern for some ingredient, the majority of the ingredients have no, they have no toxicological data. There are some toxicological data missing. So they couldn't fully evaluate the toxicological profile of these substances. And of course, this can raise some concern on their effectiveness and their safety in cosmetic products. Also because you know that in Europe, but also in US now with the new regulation, the safety for the consumers is the basis of the European regulation, but also for the US regulation. Next slide, please. So we can come at the end at the rich proposal of restriction. We have a background. The Risk Assessment Committee issued a background document in the middle of the last year. They proposed the limits for PFAS, and they are the same of the French ban. There will be, we are now in the period of consultancy, so stakeholders can provide their own suggestion, opinion, data, and so on, because the ban is not formally issued yet, but it will be in a few months. There will be for sure some derogation, also because the socio-economical committee finds out that there are some economical issues if we fully ban the PFAS in all sectors, especially in some sectors, and we will see in the second part of the webinar that for medical device, PFAS will be admitted also for other years because they are irreplaceable in this moment. But for the derogation will concern only fields in which there are no alternatives to PFAS, and in cosmetic there are actually alternatives. So PFAS containing cosmetics, they don't have future at least in Europe. PFAS as ingredient can be used in medical device probably, but not in cosmetics. Again, we have to keep in mind that PFAS can be or ingredients intentionally added or contaminants. It is quite simple to phase out the use of PFAS as ingredients, intentionally added ingredients. But we have to consider that the ban and the already banned PFAS in the REACH regulation or in the cosmetic regulation are contaminants, are not ingredients used in cosmetics. So this is, we can arrive at the first question of the poll. Are you planning to detect PFAS in your cosmetic? Well, from what I have told, now we can consider PFAS as we can consider heavy metals. They are ubiquitous pollutants because they have widespread used in the last decade because of their very useful properties. And the article that I mentioned of 2024 highlighted that the PFAS are present even if in the cosmetic product PFAS as ingredients were not present. We have to consider to detect PFAS as we detect heavy metals. And so we have to rely on reliable analytical methods. Let's next slide, please. Okay, also the next one. Why detect PFAS in cosmetic? Because of the reason I have already told you. Because cosmetic can be a source of dispersion into the environment. We have to consider that the ban of PFAS is global. Is not only on cosmetics, but on in all the fields of economics, because they are used in all the fields. We are using textile, in aeronautics, in a lot of fields, and the principal problem. Beyond the unfavorable toxicological data of the short chain PFAS, the most concerned property is the persistent in the environment, and cosmetic can be a source of dispersion into the environment. PFAS are contaminants. Some of them are carcinogenic, some of them are endocrine disruptors. So safety assessors should take in consideration the presence of this impurity in cosmetics product, like the safety assessors do for heavy metal, for example. And because we actually don't have so many data of PFAS like for example, heavy metals. The research is at the beginning. We don't have toxicological data for the majority of the PFAS, but as I told you at the very beginning, there are 10,000 substances in this category. And we don't actually know exactly what is the dispersion into the environment of these 10,000 substances. So to detect these substances, also in cosmetic, can give a part of this puzzle and can give some contribution to the researcher, to the scientist, to evaluate the presence of these compounds in the environment, the persistence of the environment, and so on. This is why we should detect PFAS in cosmetics, to be aware of their presence, to handle their concerning properties, to evaluate what is the impact, the real impact in the environment, but also on the human health. The next slide, please. And so we have to detect them. But unfortunately, we have a list of heavy metals. We don't have a list of PFAS, also because, again, they are more than 10,000 substances. And again, probably we have to consider, at least for now, the most concerning one in the very first present. Then we can also evaluate the present toxicological data of the other, but we have to concentrate now on the most concerning ones. We have to consider also that the French ban and the Rich proposal of ban are not specific for cosmetic products. They have to cover all the possible field of human activities. So how can we detect what we cannot do if we don't know what we have to detect, which substance we have to detect? We should rely on the closest legislation, for example, food and pharmaceutical, but above all food, because food actually has issued a list of PFAS which are prohibited in food. Next slide, please. As you can see here, you can find the regulation of food that concern meat, fish, eggs. There is a list of 4 PFAS and a recommendation where there are other 22 PFAS. In this list, there are already the prohibited PFAS in Annex 2. So if we can use this list as a starting point to detect PFAS in cosmetics, we are sure that at least we can be compliant with Annex 2 of the cosmetic regulation. Next slide, please. We can integrate this list also with a list of 20 PFAS, and in Italy we have also a list of 30 PFAS. You can see here in the to search in the water. We can use also this list as a starting point to detect the PFAS as impurity in our cosmetic products. Again, I would like to highlight that there are also the prohibited PFAS in Annex 2, but also the perfluorohexanoic acid, which is prohibited by the REACH regulation. Next slide, please. Which are the techniques through which we can detect PFAS? Well, at least it is very important the preparation of the samples, the extraction, and the technique to detect the PFAS is the UPLC MS, because this technique relies the most reliable and the most precise and accurate results. And this is shown, well shown, next slide, please, by the proficiency test performed. Of course, these are performed on food, because in food there is a list of prohibited PFAS, but we can apply the same technique with different or a specific sample preparation also for cosmetic, which are different but in some way similar matrices as food. It is very important to have reliable results because of the reason I have mentioned before, because we have to be fully aware of the real contamination of our cosmetic products in order to give the safety assessor all the tools and instruments to understand the real impact on the human health. Next slide, please. And next again. Here you can see the result in other proficiency tests. You can see that this method is very reliable. Next slide, please. But we have to go beyond the list of prohibited PFAS. In fact, the ban says that there will be concern, there will be a limit, a threshold of the total fluorine. And in fact, now we are implementing this method to be fully compliant for the future ban. And this detection of the the total fluorine in cosmetic is useful also to have as a screening to understand the real concentration of this impurity in the cosmetic product or in other products, also in food, packaging, and pharma. In fact, if we have the total fluorine concentration in a specific product and then we perform the detection of prohibited PFAS, we are reasonably sure, we have a data that can be assure us that we have make the best to be reasonably sure that the concentration of PFAS are as low as possible. We can evaluate the toxicological data of the PFAS of the major concern, and then this is a starting point for sure to detect the other substances, the other 10,000 substances, which are now almost unknown because we cannot detect in it, and there will be a lot of work to implement all these molecules. So total fluorine plus the list of prohibited PFAS in food can give a reasonably a robust base to have data to evaluate the presence of this impurity in cosmetic products. So now I pass the word to my colleague, Dr. Fabio, which explain which are the PFAS, which are ingredients, which is the destiny of this PFAS. Well, we know, but we don't know the destiny in medical device, and which are the replacement for formulators.
Hello, everybody. We are Fabio and Andrea Brunetta. We are in Kalis, a cosmetic industry which produce cosmetic and medical devices. And we have been studied perfluoropolyethers from the beginning, from 1986. So we are very expert on the use of this PFAS in cosmetic. It's a pleasure to participate to this webinar organized by Neotron, where we will try to provide an overview of the current status of perfluoropolyethers. Just a moment. You don't. Forse questa freccetta qua. Oh, ok.
La seconda sì, aveva questa.
Yes. What are perfluoropolyethers? Perfluoropolyethers belong to the large family of PFAS in accordance with their definition as perfluorinated alkyl substances. They are liquid polymer consisting solely of carbon, fluorine, and oxygen atoms. They dissolve neither in water and in the aqueous solvent, nor in oil and in oily solvents. And they are chemically and biologically inert. These polymers impart remarkable properties to cosmetic products, which we will mention later. Unfortunately, they are not biodegradable. They are considered forever chemicals. And these characteristics, regardless their absence of toxicity, will limit their use in the next future. In this image, I have simplified the formula of two perfluorinated polymers. At the top, polytetrafluoroethylene, like Teflon, for example, or at the bottom, perfluoropolyethers, like maybe Fombling HG. As you can see, the difference is that in this last, there is an oxygen ethereal bond. And so this makes this polymer liquid instead of solid like polytetrafluoroethylene. Okay, we can go. How are produced the perfluoropolyethers? The production is achieved through a photooxidation of hexafluoropropane in the presence of oxygen and UV light at very low temperature. Subsequently, the peroxide formed are eliminated by heating, and a final fluorination, this is the step 3, replace all the terminal groups with fluorine atoms. Finally, a fractional distillation can separate the mixture obtained in various grades of molecular weights and of viscosity. The manufacturing process ensure the absence of terminal groups such as carboxylics or sulfate groups. And thanks to the fractional distillations, the final product is free from oligomers and monomers. Manufacturers declare a purity higher than 99.9%, the absence of monomers, the absence of perfluorooctanoic acid, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, and very derivatives. Poi andiamo avanti. A lot of toxicological and ecotoxicological studies were done on perfluoropolyethers, demonstrating the absence of toxicity. Next one. Perfluoropolyethers have a wide range of industrial applications, some of which are shown in this slide. They have been used in our sector since 1986, the year in which their cosmetic application was patented. As you can see, in 1986, there were the first patents on the use of in cosmetics and dermatology of perfluoropolyethers. From a technical standpoint, since perfluoropolyethers are insoluble both in oil and in water, they lead the formation of free-phase emulsions. In our studies, these emulsions have proven to be finer and more stable than the traditional one. As shown in this picture, perfluoropolyethers are used in various cosmetic applications, including barrier, protective, moisturizing, sun care, makeup, as well as air conditioner products.
Makeup also.
PFPEs have been extensively used in makeup cosmetics. But our company has particularly focused the investigation of the barrier effect of this product because this PFP create a protective film on the skin acting as an invisible hydro and lipo-repellent glove suited for skin protection and highly effective in treating contact dermatitis. This slide illustrates how PFP-based products successfully prevent methylene, is the previous one, if you can go, but it's not important. Prevent a methylene blue solution and a glycoprotein solution for staining the skin. Furthermore, by combining these ingredients with other ingredients and optimizing the formulations, we have also observed positive effect on various types of dermatitis. And in the following photographs provided by dermatologists and pharmacists as a part of post-market clinical follow-up of our medical devices, you can see the remarkable results achieved in several cases. Allora, puoi andare. Another one. A curiosity, an historical note. The United States Army has patented the use of perfluoropolyethers in combination with polytetrafluoroethylene for the protection of the skin of the soldier for the chemical agents. This slide illustrates the distinction between short-chain PFAS, such as perfluorooctanoic acid, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, and perfluorohexane sulfonic acid, characterized by 6 or 8 carbon atoms with high solubility. And you can see the difference with the PFPs used in cosmetic formulation. The most frequently used compound in cosmetics contains 57 carbon atoms and exhibits the full insolubility, contrasting sharply with the shorter soluble chain. The regulatory status, it was previously described, of short chain PFAS is that FOA and FOS and PFHXS have long been banned. Perfluorohexanoic acid will be banned in Europe starting from October 10 of this year. Other short chain PFAS will be phased out in the next future. Concentration limits are set also for perfluorohexanoic acid from October 10. In 2023, a joint proposal was submitted by several European member states to ECHA, European Chemical Agency, for universal restrictions of all PFAS. ECHA adopted a positive opinion on March 2026, and the final regulatory decision is pending for 2027, when the European Commission is expected to formally enact the restriction into law. So, few years for all the PFAS. France has anticipated the European ban on certain categories of PFAS to January 1, 2027. For for cosmetics, personal care products, textiles, and ski waxes. We assume that the perfluoropolyethers demonstrating that they are free of impurities can still be used in cosmetics for another 2 or 3 years. Medical devices will probably be allowed for a much longer period, maybe until 2040, provided that the lack of equivalent alternative substances is demonstrated. In conclusion, we can state that the PFPEs used in cosmetics are not under scrutiny for their toxicity, unlike low molecular weight and soluble perfluorinated compounds. However, they are not biodegradable and belong to the PFAS category. For this reason, they will be banned in Europe in cosmetic products as well as in other sectors. They may still be used for a short transitional period and for a longer duration with medical devices. The cosmetic industry has already taken steps toward the replacement using alternative substances. Although, in my opinion, these alternatives will not be able to match 100% of the same characteristics and performance. Can they be replaced? Yes, of course, they must be replaced because we can use it only for few years, not only, but maybe some products containing perfluoropolyethers produced now will have a short life because they must be taken off from the market in 2-3 years. So it is fundamental to replace perfluoropolyether as soon as possible, and most industries have done already it. Cosmetic companies, through appropriate adjustment of the formulation, have already replaced or are currently replacing perfluoropolyethers. In our case, for instance, we achieved positive results by replacing PFPEs with 2 different polymers, one hydrophobic and the other lipophobic. In this slide, you can see some alternative for makeup industries, for example, light oils characterized by high spreading and capacity to disperse pigments. In this other slide, some examples of polymers suited for barrier or skin protective emulsion, in particular histolites, which are polyester of fatty acid, demonstrate a very good water resistance and a moderate oil resistance. Also, some polyurethanes exhibit good water and oil resistance and the capacity to make protective films on the skin. Another slide of different polyurethanes. Also, silicones derivatives like alkyl dimeticone or this polymer indicated in this slide can be considered a good alternative to PFPE. Thank you for your attention. If you need to contact us, this is our my mail address.
Thank you, Fabio, for your contribution. We can now proceed with the Q&A session. We received different questions during our registration process. The first one is, in which way the detection of total fluorine is important for PFAS detection? Second one, do you think cosmetic companies should routinely test for PFAS as impurities? Third one, can silicones derivatives be considered a valid alternative to PFPE? And last one, considering the ban of perfluorohexanoic acid and its derivatives, will it be necessary to prove that PFPEs do not contain as impurities or as products of degradation these substances? I leave the floor to Fabio and Irene to proceed with the answers.
I think to the first question, my answer, Irene, yes.
Yeah. The first one, I can answer to the first one. In part, I have already explained why the total fluorine is important for PFAS detection for two reasons. Because the REACH proposal, but also the French ban, ask to measure the total fluorine. If in fact, as you can see from the slide, the REACH proposal of restriction declares 50 ppm, including polymeric FAS, is the threshold if total fluorine exceed 50 milligram fluoro per kilo. So the first important reason is because the law, the ban is now in its proposal, as Fabio well explained. We are expecting that this ban will become into force, or it will be issued in a few months, and we expect we came into force in the next years. And now we are in the transition period. But it is quite accepted that this will be the final version of the ban. But the second important reason is because this is a sort of screening. If total fluorine exceeds 50 milligram fluoro per kilo, we have a problem. And for sure, our cosmetic product or our product won't respect the ban. So we won't proceed with the detection of PFAS of major concern, because unfortunately, if the result shown that the total fluorine exceed the threshold, we have to reformulate our product. But if the total fluorine is under this threshold, we have to detect the PFAS of major concern, because again, it is requested by the law. And calculating the result of the PFAS detected and the total fluorine, we can also calculate those fractions which has not been detected because we cannot detect some other molecules. And we have some, even if we don't know which actually those fraction is, we can in any case have a profile of the concentration of PFAS in our product. And this is very useful for the safety assessment.
Yeah.
The second one, I think, is for Fabio. Can silicon derivatives be considered as a valid alternative to PFPE?
Okay. I remember when we began to study perfluoropolyethers together with the producer. It was Osimont, Montefluos, and after Solexis. We made many comparisons between perfluoropolyethers and the silicones, because it was for us more important to understand if PFPE worked better than silicones. Of course, I think that silicones are the best alternative to PFPE. Many different silicones have very important properties as waterproof effective, light texture, spreadability, skin feel, and so on. So silicone are one of the best alternatives. Of course, for the formulation in which you have to declare a natural composition, silicones are not valid because they are, of course, not natural, and they have also low biodegradability.
Okay, I can proceed with the third question, and I would like to take advantage of this period because in chat we have an alert that there was a typo error in my slide. I am sorry. I will correct him about the French ban. I will correct him and I will send the correct version. Just a typo error because 2 digits of the year were missing. Thanks for the alert. Do you think cosmetic companies should routinely test for PFAS as impurities? Well, of course, all impurities. Yes. Of course, all impurities should be checked into our finished product because you know that safety assessors have to evaluate also the impurities, and maybe the most concern come from impurities, not from legally and intentionally added substances. Of course, we have to evaluate the toxicological profile of the intentionally added substances, but impurity are most insidious because they are not intentionally added, but often they are impurities which are very unfavorable toxicological profile, and PFAS are not an exception. Considering also that due its widespread use in the last decades, we can consider them as heavy metals, as I've told you in my part of the presentation. They are ubiquitous contaminants, and we have to know their concentration, their presence in as impurity in our products, because so in this way we can manage in their presence, and we safe assessor, we can evaluate better the toxicological profile of our finished product.
Before the last question, yes, I think yes, absolutely, absolutely, because we have to demonstrate when you use perfluoropolyethers in cosmetics the absence of impurities, and of course the producer give us a certificate of analysis in which they demonstrate the absence of FAS in the composition of this product. But this is not enough. This is not enough because for first, we have to understand if the certificate of analysis of the producer is correct. We have also to understand that maybe during the production process, maybe also for the other ingredients that are used in the cosmetic, there is the possibility to have some banned PFAS. For this reason, I think that it is important to perform many analysis. My opinion is not to every batch of productions, but spot or during the pilot productions to make these tests.
I agree.
I don't know your opinion.
I agree. I would like to add also that this last question is linked to the previous one because, and you have to consider also that perfluorohexanoic acid is regulated by REACH regulation, not in cosmetic regulation. So it is received more attention for sure, but this is connected also with medical device because, of course, PFPE are PFAS, and so they will be banned in cosmetics, but they can be used in the future for medical device. And of course, due to the fact that they can be used in medical device, but also the fact that perfluorohexanoic acid is regulated under REACH, probably the answer is yes, you have to test the perfluoroxanoic acid, considering also that medical devices often are more invasive than cosmetic products.
I think also that in the PIF, the evaluator of the safety must be sure that there is not impurities in the finished product. So during the safety evaluation is important also to have this data, and this data you can have only with analysis.
Thank you, Irene and Fabio, for your answers. Very accurate ones. In the following days, you receive a follow-up email containing the webinar's presentation slides, recording, and survey. You may also reach out to us using the contact information displayed on your screen. This brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you for attending our webinar. We hope you found this session insightful and engaging. A big thank you to our speakers, Irene and Fabio, for sharing their expertise. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for joining us.